Hi students, today I'm going to go over basic toolbar in Photoshop. We'll be using Photoshop for a bit now in this class, so what I wanted to do is go through a basic tutorial on Photoshop. So I'm on my Mac desktop, you may have a PC. If I go to my Photoshop application down at the bottom and open it, I should get a screen like this. Now, if you look at this screen, this thing at the big up at the top has some tutorials. These are some getting started with Photoshop tutorials that you may be interested in. This is an interactive tour of Photoshop if you want to check it out. Below are some of my documents, recent documents that I have, so I can quickly go to those documents and open them up if I want to. Over to the left, you can see Create New and Open. You can open up an existing document by hitting Open and then going through the prompts. But what we're going to do is start off with a new document. So I'm going to create a new document, and in this screen you will see recent document sizes, saved document sizes, different photo sizes here if you're working with photographs, different print sizes like letter size, tabloid, legal, art and illustration, then the different website sizes, mobile interfaces, and then film and video sizes. What we're going to use mostly in our class is print. So I'm going to go to the print, and I'm going to start off with a letter size document, which is 8.5 by 11. So if I look at the right side, I can see that it's 8.5 wide by 11 high. I can change the orientation to horizontal, and you'll notice that the change is made here. But I want to use vertical. This is really important. So in the course content, we talked about different resolutions. 300 pixels per inch or 300 dots per inch, which is mostly used in print, is a good resolution for printing out a document. Now, the other resolution we talked about was for screen, which is 72 pixels per inch. Now, if I made this 8.5 by 11 by 72 pixels per inch, when I went to print it out, it wouldn't look so good. It would be pixelated. So I want to keep my documents at 300 pixels per inch, so a higher resolution. And I would start most of my documents in that resolution, and then you could size it down for screen, down to 72 pixels. You want your color mode to be RGB to begin with. When you end up printing on press or when you go out to print, you'll convert it to CMYK, but RGB gives us the most saturated color. So you want it RGB. I'm giving it a white background, and then so that's all I have to do for now. So these settings are good. You can name, I'm going to name this as just the test document. So I'm putting a name up at the top. I'm going to hit create. So if you open up, and this is the main Photoshop screen. In the center, you'll see your document, and if you look all the way to the right bottom corner, it says background. So the background is white. We set the background to white. If I click on, you can't really do anything because it's locked. But you want to make sure that you don't really do anything on this background. If you do, everything's going to be locked onto that background. So what I want to do is down all the way to the bottom right, there's a trash can icon to delete layers to the right of that toolbar, but right next to it, it says create a new layer. So I'm going to create a new layer. So it's layer 1. Now, layer 1 is a transparent layer. So I'm going to turn it off, and you can see that it's transparent. So whatever objects I put on here, everything else will be transparent around that object. So I'm going to go ahead and add a object. So the most important thing in this layout, in this screen, is the toolbar menu to the left. All the way down the left side are different tools you'll be using. The top tool is the Move tool, and if you click over it, it'll give you exactly what it does. It'll show you a little tiny clip video of what it does, and it'll give you also its shortcut. So V is Move. So if you see that, if you click V, you'll go to the Move tool. Below that is the rectangular marquee tool, or M, if you want. And if you click on it, a drop down comes up, and you can do a circle, elliptical, a single row, and a single column marquee. I'm going to make a rectangle, so I'm going to hit the rectangle marquee and draw in that layer a rectangle. Now, there is nothing in that rectangle, it's just a selected rectangle. But if I want to make it a color like a rectangle, I would go to Edit and then Fill, and you can see foreground color. Now where you find the foreground color is all the way down to the bottom left of the toolbar. There are two colors here. There's a red and a blue. The red color is the foreground color, and the blue color is the background color. You could switch those colors around by clicking on this little arrow tool. Oops, you got to turn this off. This arrow tool here. So I want to make it red, and I'm going to go to Edit, Fill, and I'm going to fill it with the foreground color. And I'm going to hit OK. So now I have a red box. So this red box, if I hit the Move tool, I can move it around in that layer. See? So now I have a red box that I can move around. Now, there is another way to change the color, which is a shortcut, which you should know. If I want to change the foreground color, so I'm going to flip it to blue, I hit Option and Delete, and it will switch the foreground color. If I want to switch the foreground to the background color, I would hit Command Delete. So Option and Command Delete. On a PC, I think, I know on the Mac it's Option and Command. I'll have to figure out, it might be Control and Delete, but and Control and Return, and I'll try to figure that out for a PC. I'm on a Mac. So I'm switching colors. So now I have this red box, and if I hit Command D or Control D on the PC, I'm not so sure, it deselects it. Now even if it's not selected, since it's on a layer, I still can move that object around. Now, what I was saying about putting things on the same layer, if I was to put a circle and hit Command D, Option Delete, and hit Deselect, if I tried to move that circle, it's attached to the one below. So I'm going to undo that. So the way I can keep objects the same is and move them around one another is to add another layer. So I'm going to add another layer. So it says layer 2. And I'm going to create another circle. And then I'm going to fill it. Oops. Fill it. So now, if I move it, it's on a layer above it. And this is really important. You want to separate objects by layer. And a good form of practice is if you double click the layer, you can name it. So I'm going to say red box. and I'm going to double click and blue box. It's good and important for you to name your layers, and I will be watching your documents and making sure you name your layers as part of your assignments. So please name your layers. So now we have two objects in two separate layers, which is really good. So they're separated. So now what if I wanted to put the blue ball underneath the red box? I would just grab that layer, like click on the top layer, and drag it below the other layer. Now the red box is above. Now, as long as I'm selected, I am selecting just the blue box. Sorry, it's a blue circle. I should have put a blue circle. If I click on the red box layer, I'm selecting only the red box. So that is how to put objects in layers and how to color different objects. So now what I want to do is kind of talk about selection tools. So you could use the marquee selection tool, the marquee rectangle selection tool, to select the objects that you want. So if I wanted to delete it, I'm going to hit Command X, and I've deleted that, so I'm undoing it. Or hit the delete key. But below it is the polygon lasso tool. So the lasso tool allows you to select areas of the object. So I'm going to select an area. There's an area. And I'm going to try to fill that a different color. That selection a different color. So I'm going to hit my Option Delete. And now I have it filled a different color. Now remember, it was all on that layer. So now it's one object. It's not separate. But I selected that red area and deleted, colored that area. I could use this selection tool to select many things in photographs and whatnot. The polygon lasso tool, if you click on an area, so I'm going to click and then drag, click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, and connect it together. So now I have a selection in there, and I'm going to delete it. Oops, sorry. Let me do it again. I'm going to delete it. So I just deleted that area, that selection. So I'm using the polygon lasso tool to select things, which allows you to kind of create lines of selection if you want to select, more straight line objects. So I just colored that selection in. So that's the polygon. The magnetic lasso tool finds areas of selection together. So it'll find an area and try to select it. So, but what's even better than those tools is the one below it, is the magic wand tool. So the magic wand tool will select the color area that's similar. So there's a sample color. So since this is all green, if I click on it, it selects only the green. Notice it didn't select the red. Now if I want to pull the red out of that selection, I could select, oops. Actually, it's pulling the red in there as well. There you go. So now it just selects the red. So I'm going to delete that. And then let's grab the red. So it's selecting by color. And actually it's selecting by tolerance. So it's set to a tolerance. If you look at the top here, it's set to a tolerance of 40. The lower I go, the tolerance, the less colors it will select. So we'll go through that when we start dealing with photographs. The quick selection tool will also do the same thing. It selects, if you click and drag, it selects colors. Let me go to the blue one. I'm going to click and drag. See, it selected the blue area. That's the quick. And the magic wand tool is similar. So it just selected that whole color. Sometimes you could select outside the area and it selects the whole area outside. And if you press Command Shift Delete, it inverts the selection. So now it inverted to the selection of just the green area. Oh, actually, Command Shift I. So now just inverted to the green. It deleted the green. So I selected the outside. I hit Command Shift I, and now it select the green. So it just inverted the selection. Okay. This tool crops your document. So it's going to crop the whole document. So I don't want to do that right now. This tool down here, oh, it just cropped my document. Let me start all over. It just cropped my document. This tool is a color selection tool. So if I have a color, I'm going to have several colors. And then I'm going to create another layer. And I'm going to select, if I select the bottom layer, I can, let me change that color so it's different. Okay, I have 3 colors here. 1 is on layer 1 and 2 are in the background layer. So what I want to do is I want to select the red color to convert this green color into red. So I'm going to select the red, and you notice my foreground color is now set to red. Now I want to go back to this layer, and I can select this color and then convert it to the red, change it to the red. So that's a way to select colors in your document with the eyedropper tool. We're not going to mess with the red eye tool right now. I wanted to go over the brush tool. So I'm going to delete, oops, I'm going to delete all those objects. I'll leave the layer 1. Now if I want to turn off layer 1, I just close the eyeball here in that layer. I'm going to create another layer, and I'm going to use the paint tool. So right now I've got a black. I'm going to get a red. And if you notice up at the top, it turns into the brush tool, the paint brush tool. Right to the next of it, you can there are different brushes you can use. So I'm going to use the soft brush. You could change the size of the brush here. So right now I have a large brush. You can change the softness and hardness of the brush. So if it's hard, you go all the way to the right. If it's soft. So right now I'm drawing with the mouse. And then if I want to change the size, I can change the size. If I want to change a color. Now remember, this is all on one layer, so if I select it, it selects everything. It's all in one layer. So if you want to make multiple layers, you're going to have to add more layers to add more colors and whatnot. That's the paint tool. We're not going to mess with the clone stamp tool or the history brush tool. The eraser tool is really important at this point. So if you want to use the eraser, there's different modes. So you can, in under brush mode, so you can up at the top. So if you click on any of these tools, the top bar will change to give you options for each tool. So the brush tool is up there, you can see it, and you could change the size of the brush, the eraser size. Now, if you notice, it's not erasing completely. It's because the opacity is set to 31%. If I pull it all the way to 100%, then it will erase completely. So you can play with the opacity when you're erasing to get different effects. But this is a brush. If you want a hard edge block, you can set it to block, and it just makes a big block. And there's no way of setting the size of that block. It just makes a block. And then if you want a hard pencil, you can have the size of the pencil, but it doesn't have any softness to it. So you can use a little pencil tool, eraser tool for that. This is the gradient tool, and we'll play with that later. The smudge tool, these are for the smudge tool, and the sponge tool, these are for photographs, and we're going to play with that later. The pen tool, we probably won't get to in class, but it's similar to Adobe Illustrator, where you make Bezier curves with points, and then you could do whatever you want with them. You could change them into you could fill them, you could change them into selections. So this allows you to modify those points. So we're not really going to play with that tool much. The T is your oops, that's too large. The T is your font tool for typography. We will be using some typography. So you can select it and you can say, I'm going to just put my name. And then up here, if you select it, you can change the color. You could change the point size, how big it is. You can make a custom point size by putting your cursor in there and actually adding a number. And then you could change the font in here. I have all these fonts, so I just changed the font. So that's the font tool. You could do whole paragraphs and then set justification here. So path selection tool is part of the pen tool, so we won't mess with that. Oh, so you know how we use the rectangle marquee tool to make shapes? This actually here makes shapes. So it'll just make shapes and it will create a layer for those shapes. So these are shape layers, and over here you can adjust properties of those shapes here. So these are pre-made shapes that you can use. So I can make rounded edges. The ellipse tool, I'm going to change the color so this will be easier. And notice every time I make a new shape, okay, I'm going to change the color. Every time I make a new shape, it's listed here as a shape tool. And those properties can be adjusted over here. The hand tool allows you to grab, let's see. I think the hand tool allows you to grab, it's supposed to allow you to grab shapes, but it doesn't, it's not seeming to work right now. And then the zoom tool. So this is if you want to zoom in, the zoom tool should have a plus. If you hit Option, it will put a minus, so you can zoom in and zoom out. So there are other things on this menu that we will go through later on, but I just wanted to go through the toolbar with you. What I want you to do is spend a couple of days, just playing with the toolbar, messing around. You can't destroy anything. You may want to check some of these windows out, but it can get complicated. There are a bunch of control windows in here, but we'll talk about those later. But for now, just play around with the empty document and play with shapes, draw stuff with the brush tool, work with layers, use the type tool, and use all the tools that I showed you and get familiar with that. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll be pushing out more videos next on how to adjust photographs and how to mask objects in Photoshop. So, thanks a lot, students. Bye.